Yeah, yeah.
What's,
I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce
oh,
it.
okay. Oh, that's him. Oh, right. What's his actual
Yeah.
name?
Lucas. Lucas.
Lucas. Oh, cool, man. That's awesome.
What's up? No, no, just the one where it says how many of each device type. Just that part. Um, uh, there's question marks to the F-150. Don't worry, F-150 will be there, just not from AJ's ride. There's a reason he's banned from this Discord. Okay, for a second I was hoping. No, this is a test device. We're live on YouTube. How does that work? That's cool. Um, okay, it's 2:01. We're ready to go. We got frogs in here. Great. We got Sunny and frogs. So both of you probably saw in general discussion last night. George mentioned it, but we're just about ready to start really turning up like the data fire hose and forks. We're ready to start getting the fork data. Um, so if you click on the link thing, it's been there for a while, but we'll set up some standards. We already have the custom.capnp, and we basically need from the forks some guarantees on like things that you guys will leave intact from stock OpenPilot, and then we'll be able to use your data to train. Um, so like if you guys change the definition of like enabled overriding that kind of stuff, we need that not to change. And what we'll do is we'll start with Sunny and Frog Pilot, and we'll start allowing your users into the training set, and we'll see what issues there are. I assume there'll be some like little long tail uh, of like straggler fields that you guys are modifying. That yes, we both heavily use custom. Great. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are already set up to do this for the most part. We'll just have to get your data and start running it through the pipeline. Can we reuse some? No, you cannot. Um, we should really set up like a nice list of do's and don'ts. But the real focus of 098 will be turning up the data fire hose. So right now we get about 1.5% of every segment driven back at the office for training. We want to get that up to 10% after 098, a 10x improvement. Like let's say we're 3 orders of magnitude off the data. So you guys might have seen George tweet about this. I rented a Tesla with FSD 13 over the weekend. We were driving around it. It's incredible. Like it's legitimately incredible. I was really sad to give up the Tesla. We're gonna buy one. We're working on buying a Model Y. We'll get that upstreamed so you can drive around open pilot with it. But everything about it is incredible. It was better than all my Uber drivers in Vegas. It's just incredible. Um, so we're really focused on closing that gap. And Tesla has a massive, massive diff in terms of inference compute, training compute, data, team size. So we want to start closing that gap. We expect to always be about an order of magnitude off on all of those things, which is probably fine. We get this nice advantage where we're fine doing things a couple of years later. There's really no one else in sight. Um, but yeah, we're a few orders of magnitude off on a whole bunch of those, and we want to start closing that gap. Um, we have some good evidence that the MLSIM models will do a whole lot better with tons more data. Like the real core issue with the MLSIM models is, let's say you ask it to deviate 50 centimeters and it only goes 40 centimeters, and it's error like this. When can we expect stop sign traffic light? So again, this is like the whole deal of what everybody's here is working on. The data is part of this. We need to ship MLSIM, and then we will work on using that to ship end-to-end longitudinal into chill mode. Maxime, you got the numbers? Yeah, yeah. You want to post it? So we've got this interesting stat here, where so we sold about like 8,000 comma twos. You see, we have 6.3 thousand in the training set. We sold about four. So on comma threes, we sold about, let's say, 5,500. 4.7 of those are in the training set. 3x's, we're about 10,000 in on 3x's, and 2.5K are in the training set. So we got to get that up on 3x's. obviously 3x is way newer than these devices. But we really got to start closing this gap on the 3x's. I expect 098 and fixing the fork delta to really bring this up. Like if we can double that in the next couple months, and then really get it up to like 80%, 80+%, like the comma 2 and comma 3 are, that'll be a big, big, uh, big problem for shipping Amazon. Oh, Maxime commented it. It's in the If you guys see that the picture Maxime commented. Wow, I had the So, there's tons of comma 2 data still in training. We get about 50,000 segments a week. We want to bump that up massively. We want to start with a 10x. I think a 10x is possible, 098. And I think we'll ship something that looks like maybe not quite comma points, but we'll have like a little, maybe a button in the settings or a whole menu in the settings that's like training data, and it'll say like, if you bring this inside, you'll be able to upload this many good segments for training, and you click a button and it says like, yes, my device is plugged into a wall on good Wi-Fi. I am ready to dump as much training data that's on this thing up to comma. You guys still use anything from the comma? Yes. So we have a segment that's used in the ground truth pipeline. We still use the comma 10K stuff. And lens rattle. I completely forgot about that. I was looking at the comma 2 segments the other day. What is this? So I'm curious what changed in regards to the data requirements. So it's just kind of time for this now. You're always saying the opposite, just a change in strategy. A bit, yeah. It's a bit of change in strategy. Generally, the way we've worked is like we'll kind of serially work on things. So like we know we need MLSIM to get to the next thing, so all the resources are going to MLSIM. We're starting to shift that a bit, and we want to kind of get everything to line up, such that when MLSIM starts to work, we can really scale it up. We put in a massive order for 5090s. We're working on TinyBox Pro V2 to stand up 5090s. I don't know if that's a leak for a TinyCore product, but that's something that's coming up. We're really pushing on all of these areas where we're not quite in line with FSD, such that once everything kind of lines up, you should start to see the performance start to line up, and we can scale all this stuff up massively once it works. Doesn't matter if we have custom model selection. Nope. So the things that do matter, like if the system's lagging a whole bunch, I assume you guys remove some of those checks or at least loosen them. We won't be able to train on this stuff, unfortunately. So if let's say the sensor measurement timestamps aren't good or the camera frame timings aren't good, this stuff will be a problem. Maybe you guys can answer whether you change that stuff much. I ran Sunny Pilot Dev once, and I got a whole bunch of alerts along this line.
So
I've done that a long time.
Yeah, we're doing the rewrite right now. So basically, we try to keep everything as minimal as possible for our changes to support the legacy model. So right now we're just checking the inputs and the outputs from the metadata from the model that we get the metadata from, and then we just literally just using that. We're not adding any extra logic or processes or whatnot to get those models running. So really, we're just getting the latest code to work with the older model, but the modification is very minimal. So performance-wise, we usually check the CPUs and see if it's doing something crazy. But comparing to stock OpenPilot, which we do have a bench that we kind of use as a baseline, and it's pretty similar as far as for the performance. But we're just trying to understand what exactly are the metrics we're looking for as far as for the data is valid for training, etc. So.
Okay, so what I'm more talking about, the model switching is all cool and everything. What I'm more asking is, you ever, the things that trigger a comm issue or a radar fault or anything like that. Do you guys ever loosen those thresholds?
I see. Yeah, those we're keeping those.
Okay, so does current Sunny Pilot modify those?
No, we do not. We keep everything as stock as
Oh.
everything is stock. Yeah. So the master dash new is the branch you're working off of, the latest. So we don't touch any of those ever.
Okay, so what I expect will happen is So this week I'm working on the common shop and stuff. Next week I will start working on the data project, and what I'll do is I'll build a huge data set of Sunny Pilot and Frog Pilot segments, and I'll start running them through our ground truth pipeline, and then I'll come up with like a nice list of issues. Do you guys already have a bunch of users on the new master? That would be nice to have. Do you know? I can find out.
We're gonna slowly announce it. We only told to like like a small group of users, but we're gonna put a bigger announcement today. Just like, hey,
Okay.
we'll hop it on, just try it. I think we just wanted to support non-ML sim models so people could actually like drive. So that's kind of we didn't announce that much, but we got the older models all the way down to like Nice Strike, which is back in I want to say July of last year or earlier for the models. So we have a lot of models to select from. So if the models, the legacy models, aren't really an issue, then definitely we can start asking users to hop it on. Right now, Master New is basically stock plus a few features of the from Sunny Pilot, but we're adding more to as we go. But yeah, should be ready to test.
Cool. How many hours do you think it gets a week on it? I don't need that much data to start looking into this. Like, are you and a couple other people daily driving Master New?
We are basically daily driving every day. Yeah, like every we just run Master New every day.
Okay,
And we
cool. Yeah.
sometimes look at like a feature branch off of Master New, but it's basically Master New every time we go off a drive.
Okay. You know what? Let's do this. Let's start a current projects for this project. Welcoming forks to the training set. Okay. So we gotta let me comment this, and then once I pick this up, probably early next week, maybe even later this week, I will pull some segments, start running through the pipeline, and then I'll give you guys a list of issues, and we'll basically improve the documentation such that it's clear to any fork what they need to do to get in the training set. But for some numbers, we train for the last like 4 or 5 years. We've trained every model that we shipped on 500,000 segments. We want to get that up massively, and we want to train the diffusion models, the ML sim, like the simulator models, on way more. We have a few people running outside SP. Great. Yeah, that's the gist of the data push. So the first two things we're going to do are ship something to OpenPilot. That's like the highlight feature of 098. That's like it's going to give you some introspection into how much data you're contributing to the training set. Maybe they'll have like a little counter. Maybe we'll do a leaderboard. That might be fun. Maybe we'll like publish a live map. We'll make it a lot of fun, and then we'll make it such that it's really clear how to maximize your contribution. Like if you bring your device inside once a week, you connect it up, and you say like, "Yep, I'm ready to just drain my device of all the segments you possibly can." Then we'll figure out something like that. And then is the second part is this fork thing, and then we'll just keep going down the list. But I expect those two might be enough to 10x already. Yeah, like a leader. I'm thinking a leaderboard and a map, and then we can publish like. Yeah, we got to gamify it. We're gonna gamify it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Quick question on the serial stuff before we go on to another topic. So there are some older ones that have to deprecate it at the end of the ordinal for the serial. Yeah. Can like we're not gonna change the data type, but can we still use it within the code, or it's not? It's gonna affect something.
Okay, so let's say we deprecated like COM issue, for example. We might still have some code in the training stack that checks like, did we see a COM issue? But now you're using it to show like some fun alert, and it really doesn't meet COM issue. That's the problem with that. I would just add new stuff. Well, The thing is, I wouldn't even do that. I would add sunny car events or something, sunny on-road events. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now too. Yeah. So right now, what I have, so for the on-road rents, I basically have like, let's say we use up to like 100 for stock OpenPilot. I have 101, 250. It's like reserved, and then I keep adding after that for the events, for example. So it's We can definitely spin up a new service, just it's completely separate from the stock on the events, and then go from there. And also for the other stuff too that we do.
So what I'll say about that is that'll probably work for now, and probably for maybe at least a year. But there may be some point where we end up using all of those and we overflow into your other non-reserved area.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all the Sunny Pilot segments in our training set are completely useless. So like we may just overnight happen to make all of our Sunny Pilot segments useless. That's why if it's completely parallel, there's no way for this to break.
Got it. Yeah, we'll definitely separate it out then. So I thought about this earlier, like if we are gonna use data, I just kind of have like a leeway room. But now I think of it, let's say we add like 70 events overnight, then it's gonna mess everything up. So we'll
Yeah.
make something parallel for sure. Yeah.
Cool. All right, and then yeah, if anybody else has questions on this before we move on, can answer a couple questions. With powerless installs, you think
if there's something that we could run locally, like on our end or whatnot, that would be cool too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, because right now we're using all Open Pilots and OpenDBC Pandas CIs, like basically every single CI that we use, and then we have some extra stuff for validation, unit tests and whatnot. So if there's something that we could also utilize for, for the stuff to validate before the data or whatever branch we update with,
Yeah.
that'll be cool too.
Okay. Yeah, you want to leave a comment? That's a good idea. You want to leave a comment in that current project thread?
Yeah.
Along that. Cool. And then somebody asked about comma powerless. Yeah, that will impact this. The idea there is to positively incentivize people to install the comma power with things like dash cam sentry mode, that kind of stuff. Obviously, that creates a pretty big dependency on something that isn't that great right now. So we'll see. Hopefully, the leaderboard and map and that kind of stuff, the gamifying kind of fixes that. Do you care if data only from release branches? No. No, right now we don't even filter, I think, on like anything that's on the comma.ai remote. That doesn't really matter. The things that matter to us are the timings and timestamps good? And then have you not like changed the definition of anything we've defined? As long as those two are those are like the two big things. Cool. Maybe we'll do maybe next week's call will be like focused on I'll do the initial reports, and then if Sunny and Frog can show up and we can discuss any issues we found. Maybe it'll all be good. Maybe it'll just be easy. We'll see. All right. So that's the push on more data. We'll really give you guys like a button. We'll give you a way to like really maximize your contribution. Right now, it's a bit nebulous. It's a little bit like open pilot updates. They just show up sometimes, right? Right now, you have no idea what's happening with your data. We'll fix that. We'll make it super visible. 098 release. Let's check out the milestones. Shane's been knocking those out. We're down to 14. Great. Just some polish, some bugs. I mean, we changed a whole lot of stuff in 098. We got Ubuntu 2404. We got the ISP. We have TinyGrad. None of the stuff that normal user cares about, but are very nice for a dev kit. We have a new DM model. We ship Ford longitudinal. We ship variable torque limits for Ford. We'll start doing that for Toyota and Hyundai too. Oh, I should have removed the carports. The coming soon carports. Let's do that now. Because those, I was originally planning to do a release right after the hackathon, but I think what we'll do is we'll do a release at the end of the month for this data push. Then after the hackathon, we'll give it like another month for those carports to kind of simmer and master. We can even plan out 099 right now. We can have that. Let's say 3:30-ish. Copy that. We'll say. And then whatever its MLSIM model time, that'll be 010. So that's kind of how the version schemes are working. Cool. Also, I think a lot of you question whether they need to be engaged or not to get into the training data. So that, don't worry too much about that part of it. We'll do a write-up and then we'll have like facts and stuff. Once we have a little feature, we'll put it all in the UI, we'll make it nice. But don't worry too much about that. The really important part is to get connected to Wi-Fi as much as possible. But right now, we only pull segments every 4 hours anyway. So you'd have to leave it to connect to Wi-Fi for a long time. We'll make it such that you can say, hey, I'm connected to a wall. I brought it in for training data. Just keep pulling. And we can even put like a little progress bar. We'll make it nice. We'll make it really nice. But yeah, don't try to like change how you drive. Don't worry about engaging. None of this stuff matters. Do you have an update on the TinyGrad issue? No, I don't know anything about that. Maybe there's an issue on the TinyGrad repo you can check out on GitHub.
Yeah, there was a bug we found with the older model. If we try to compile the newest TinyGrad, the models don't output the right data, so it looks kind of wacky on screen, and it will crash and delete and whatnot. So Yassine knows about it, but I think he said it's a TinyGrad bug, a kind of TinyGrad bug. So someone from there probably look at it.
Yeah, so the TinyGrad team is even smaller than the comma team. So if it doesn't affect anything, production open pilot, I'm not sure how it is up on the priority list. That's you can check out the progress on the TinyGrad. Cool. And then 098 release. What else? What's in the milestones? Nothing much, just some cleanup. Cool. Anything else for 098? Everybody on board with? We got a big headlining feature will be the training data stuff. Can't wait to dominate the leaderboard. Yeah. Well, for this, you won't even need to be upstream to dominate the leaderboard, but we do want to get the FO50 upstreamed at comma. This will be the next thing. All right, let's move on to comma hack. All right, so we have some to-dos before comma hack that Shane will get to. Primarily, we want to move Panda Safety to OpenDBC. So everything that you do for a carport should really just live in OpenDBC. That's the goal. When we moved all the carports to OpenDBC, we didn't move the whole test suite due to some complexities there. We have to finish that up. And then I want to work on the docs a bit. One of the things I've tried to do for OpenDBC was, I think it would be nice if all the docs for OpenDBC are just this README. It might be a little bit long, but I think it's nice if it's one page and it's like, this is just everything you need to know about OpenDBC. I think it's simple enough that it can be this way. I don't know if maybe Jason has some thoughts. It'll basically be this page and the cars.md 2.0 that Jason was working on when he was here that he started. Jason, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think so cars, the new cars.md does need some help. That's a good project for someone if you're good at web development, which I'm not. The data is there. It just needs to be visualized nicely. I think I forget who it was, but somebody actually started on it, at least visualizing stuff. That's something that could use some help. I forget, there was something else and I forget what it was. I was trying to turn on my camera.
Yeah, I think that might be a cool project for somebody to do at the hackathon. And then, everybody will be there to give input, so it'd be kind of a nice way to. I kind of see the way we're doing this hackathon as the way we kind of push carports through from now on. Usually, what happens is we just kind of feel like it's time to upstream a car that's in dashcam mode. I think the hackathon may be a nice way to. We're gonna get a bunch of carports through all at once, and people will kind of see how it's done. They'll see kind of what the bar is and what makes it easy for us to get stuff upstreamed. I think it might end up being a good format for this.
So I think we can fit a lot of good info in the README. It's probably going to be high level. There's a lot of picky little details that you have to get into eventually. It's stuff as simple as turn signals. It depends on what the signal looks like from the car. There's like 3 different variants and some conversion you do, and that just dominoes into every field. So we don't need to exhaustively document everything, but what's going to be in the README is going to be like a really high level.
So I think what we might want to do there is just like we have those abstractions for dealing with like if you're using the lamp versus like the actual blinker signal. We should maybe just the code should be a little more self-documenting in this regard. We could document like the car.cap and p. We should probably be a little bit better about documenting car.cap and p on the and annotating those fields specifically.
Something I wanted to do at some point, just haven't gotten around to. You and I have talked about it before. Is do like a starter carport, something like the mock carport writ large, and just be able to go in and start using Cabana immediately, and just start dropping stuff in there. Not having to know everything to clone. Just find a signal, plug it in. Find a signal, plug it in.
Yeah. What we might want to do.
We could bury a bunch of comments like this is how this field should be used, do this, do that, make it very verbose, but only in the development carport.
Yeah. Another thing along these lines is we should probably have so we have the test routes, right? We might want to put some like nice command lines. It's like just run this command line, it'll open Plot Juggler Cabana and just poke around and you'll get a feel for like what this car state signal looks like, what this one looks like. Just so you can orient yourself first with existing carports. That might be pretty helpful. I don't know I think that's what I did to get into this stuff. Like there was a nice Cabana demo. You look at what the signal kind of should look like, then you try to make it match in your car. Remember the brake press signal? Yeah. I think annotating car.cap and p for this stuff. Yeah. Are there any other like big to-dos people want to think we should tackle before comma hack? That's kind of OpenDBC.
So this would be I've got an old stale PR open with some guidelines on what a good carport looks like and what's necessary to merge it, like what checks we should do. It's very raw. It's a little stale. It's kind of stream of consciousness on my part. I was just trying to capture like some tribal wisdom, oral history into that. Since we're going to do this process several times at comma hack, it might be good to give it a glance before and then make sure we capture any lessons learned during.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Is N Warby here? He was working on the Panda safety move. He's not here right now. I think Shane will probably spend like a week getting all this stuff in order. It'll be tricky to get test models moved over, make it fast. We got our 1 minute constraint for all the OpenDB CCI, but we gotta get it all moved. I also don't want to do it too close to the event and then everybody's kind of disoriented and has to spend the first day rebasing their stuff. That's not a state you want to be in. We should maybe we'll set a deadline at like the end of the month or something for that. And then we can have to freeze the architecture. I really don't want to spend the first day rebasing shit. Nobody wants to do that for hackathon. Cool. Is there you have a car you're gonna take a stab at for the hackathon?
Model Y.
For myself,
Yeah.
there I wrote down a list. I think I have 6 different platform parts that need to ship somewhere or another. Not all of them are my work, but most of them. I have piles of unfinished project. In terms of what I should do, probably MEB, Volkswagen ID4 and friends. In terms of what I'm gonna do, Porsche Macan, probably, if I can find one
Oh,
to
cool.
rent.
A lot of people asked about Porsche at CES. That's the
Uh,
worst part of CES. So this year there was a lot more people who are like, "Oh, cool, my car's on the list," but so many people whose cars aren't on the list too,
Yeah.
and they're like
So-
really into the product, and then you have to say like, "Oh, sorry, their car's not supported," and there's no satisfying answer here. It's like, "Oh, but it has the features, so maybe one day."
yeah. So I'm trying not to like paint myself in a corner with too many goals, but I want to ship as much of my backlog as I can. I'm trying not to start anything new. It's just going to be ship the stuff that's on my backlog and maybe spend some time if somebody needs if somebody would benefit from pair programming time or mentoring or anything.
Yeah. Cool.
Jason, I'm gonna take you up on that, man.
Sure.
Sweet.
All right. I think that's it for Comma Hack. Probably have more to talk about once Shane starts working on those to-dos. Man. Last thing, web stuff with Cameron. So Cameron's working on dash cam logging, to connect. We do have one thing to get in on the website for this release. We reverted QDL flashing due to some bugs. So we gotta get that shipped again. And we have to make sure it's reliable. So we may just want to take this time to do the finishing flash.comma.ai project. Unlike most other things that go on here, the flasher can be totally finished. You guys should live stream the hackathon. Yeah, we'll stream the hackathon. We'll stream like maybe twice during the hackathon. But yeah, I think we got to spend some time finishing up flash.com.ai. We definitely have to bring QDL flashing back before the release because the new Agnos deletes fast boot for a nice 3-second savings on boot time. It also makes your device unbrickable, software-wise at least. And then what we can do with the QDL flashing too is we'll publish all the comma 3x, all the images. We don't put all the images in the Agnos manifest right now because they don't need to be, we don't change them. But we'll publish all those images, and then you can basically completely bring your device to a factory state, except for you can't regenerate your device's private key. But aside from that, you can get back to a completely clean factory state with flash.com.ai, which it's mostly there right now. But if you like, let's say, I don't know, erase something we don't flash right now. I don't remember all the partitions, but there are a whole bunch of partitions we don't flash right now. We'll do a complete flash.
It's probably too much for this release, but eventually I see a lot of possibility for the Flash tool to do a little ad hoc troubleshooting, like on devices where it works. It should be phoning home some data somewhere. It should be telling it some service where it succeeded, where it failed, so we have a view of what devices it works on, what it doesn't. If you're on a 3x, I think you can get to the system on module console. So if a device is acting weird, we should be able to grab console output. Like even if you have to connect it to a mobile phone.
Yeah, but I mean, when would it be weird? So right now, a big problem with the flasher is either it's unreliable in some cases, partially due to it's really not tolerant to shitty cables. I want to see if we can fix that. And it just takes a whole lot of time. So if you I don't know, you close a tab or something, the fact that it takes 5 to 10 minutes for various reasons makes it much more likely to fail. So if we get that time down to a minute and it's QDL flashing, then I suspect these issues, what issue are you going to run into that if it fails this, you probably just have to send it back anyway, right?
So in my mind, and you tell me if you feel differently, it's less about, okay, the device needs to go back. End users, you see a lot of users in the three hardware channel, basically over and over and over. If I just flash this device a little harder, it'll start working again. And it would be nice if the tool gave them some visibility to, okay, this thing isn't talking back to me, or I'm talking to it, but we can't, like, there's something wrong with the EMMC. We can't write to it, or we flashed it, but it won't boot. Some sort of serviceability for the end user to tell it whether the device is healthy. And this is very long term. It doesn't have to make this release. I'm just verbalizing things I wish and hope it would grow into, so that users know, okay, when people go to flash.comma.ai, they don't really know, I need to reimage these partitions. They know this device won't start, and I hope this fixes it. That's what they know.
I get what you're going for. I don't think you're going to get much useful information. Like, there's just like, what's the difference between like flaky flash and a bad cable?
I think it would be very interesting to take a device with flaky flash and bang on it on a developer's desk for a while and see if you could tell the difference. I bet you could.
This,
You don't
this
think
is just such a long tail. Like, it's just really hard. This is a much harder problem that you could believe.
Okay, so you don't necessarily have to get down to, okay, here's the board level component that failed, but okay, can the tool confirm success? This device is probably going to start up. It did start up. It looks healthy.
Okay, so another problem with this is, once you're on the other side of this support interaction, you never want to tell a user something along the lines of, oh boy, you really have faulty hardware here. Because then they're just so like, you cannot convince them otherwise. And they're like, this comes up so many times with, like, let's say Comma Prime, for example. Let's say they got Prime Lite and they brought their own SIM and they're like, hey, this works on my iPhone, but it doesn't work in my Comma 3X. I was like, yeah, you know how much effort Apple put into like setting up all those configurations and stuff. And they're like, no, but the modem is for sure, but it's obviously bad hardware. You guys are just stalling me. Like, so you got to be really, really careful with this stuff. So I think the thing is just make the flashing mega reliable, and that's kind of that's what the website does. Because I feel like a decent amount of those cases are just, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to flash a device for various reasons. We fix those reasons. We make it like basically instant, and then these people are just going to have, the probability of success just goes way up.
I should probably play with it at this point. I've actually never used it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't get my devices in states where they need to be flashed. I just
that's good.
It seems to be a jumping around forks thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I think that's our pre-098 project. That's the kind of the one time sensitive thing we have on the web front.
Yeah, so I guess when I've used Flash, the biggest inconvenience is the 2 cable thing. But I wasn't really around when the QDL stuff was merged, so I never actually tried it in that state yet. I haven't really.
Yeah.
No, I also don't know like what the failure states are. Like, if I had to guess, the only thing that I could guess that goes wrong is a bad cable, or the USB port isn't providing enough power, or something like that. And
so one thing right now we do is like we download the whole image. We don't stream it onto the device. So you need a whole bunch of RAM. So let's say you have a computer that doesn't have that much RAM. There's a bunch of things like that. But yeah, so it's only one cable for QDL. You just plug it in down here for QDL. There's no cable dance either. The cable dance is fixed with QDL. The QDL is strictly better. You don't have the USB 3 issue too. USB 3 is way faster. Fast boot, it just doesn't work due to the simplest bug ever. But that's irrelevant now that it just works with QDL.
So if a device is I was about to say if they're on an old version, how would they use the new Flash? But they would still have QDL if they're on an old version of Agnes. Like, that's not getting removed. It's fast boot that's getting removed.
Yeah, exactly. It's on a boot ROM, so there's no like, if you can't get into QDL, your device is just seriously messed up. You're well beyond any kind of recovery at that point. But there's totally valid reasons why you might not have a fast boot. You might have or your device just doesn't boot up at all, but it can be QDL flashed.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I was super excited to see the corrupt route thingy, because this is the number one biggest problem, in my opinion, with Connect right now. Where if you have routes in various states, it's just so hard to enumerate them all and test them. And now we should just have maybe one dongle ID that's just the test dongle ID that has one of each of these things.
Yeah. So I guess the second half of this is all of the routes that you generate need to be uploaded somewhere. I didn't know whether or not we'd want a script that makes those artifacts, like the coords JSON and that sort of stuff, or if we just have somebody upload all of these to the back end. Is that what you're thinking? Just stick them on a dongle?
I don't like that we rely on the backend to properly test Connect, but that's the
Yeah.
easiest way. I would just SCP it over to your device for now, upload them for your device, and then just do that. We should just go with what's effective right now, and then we might want to do some kind of local thingy going forward. We would probably want a local cloud hybrid.
Yeah, like
thing. Right now we
like a
just do
mock
cloud.
of the API.
Yeah, we essentially run the subset of the API that you need on the device too. And you can either pull from the device or you can pull from the cloud.
Yeah.
And in many cases, pulling from your device will be way faster.
Yeah, because I guess it's a lot easier to hack on as well, and it's basically it's a good architecture for Connect just in general to be able to talk directly to your device.
Oh, Nelson has a good point here. He's saying they send you a laptop. So obviously we don't want to send people laptops, but we may want to link to some good cables and then really highlight if you're using USB 2 or USB 3. With QDL, we're going to really want to tell people hey, you probably want to use USB 3. And say hey, warning, USB 2. It'll work, but it's going to be real slow. Try to use USB 3.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Very excited to see all this progress on Do Connect. That's all I had to talk about this dev chat. Is there anything anybody else wanted to talk about? Excited for 098, the data push, comma hack. Got a lot of exciting things going on.
Yeah, bro. The speed up for the build time of OpenDBC, I made a change recently. I'm wondering if you were able to run it on your machine. It feels very snappy. It feels very snappy.
It's great. It feels snappy. Is it 1 second though?
I'm not. See, this is the thing. I don't know. My machine isn't as fast as yours, so you gotta tell me.
I mean, if it's not 1 second on your machine, what machine are you using?
Like a Dell XPS laptop with 16 cores.
I see. Does it still have fast equals 1?
Yeah, so that's the where it's using the -0 for compiling.
Yeah, I don't like that I still don't like that there's two cases. We really can't now you really have to think about let's say I want the fast mode. I have to think about I want fast mode, and it's gonna take me longer to type out fast equals 1 than I could have just run scons and been done with it.
Right.
And then I'm like,
speed ups that were good anyway, not necessarily as it doesn't get you 1 second, but you took out some extra scons tools that weren't in use. It seems like that could go in a standalone PR, maybe just ship that.
Yeah, that could go in a standalone PR for sure.
Those were gimmies. And then you posted a nice chart there. I was curious, what did you generate that with? I hadn't seen that before.
Oh, Mermaid. I found it. I've heard about Mermaid because I was reading one of Comma's repos, and I was like, you can make a graph inside Markdown? That's sick. So yeah.
Yeah, we've been using that. It's pretty cool.
Looking at your chart, I know there's been a lot of time spent looking at regular expression libraries. A couple things there. Regular expressions, even if you got that down very low, didn't necessarily, according to your chart, with the way the dependency graph looked, didn't necessarily get you to 1 second. And
right, yeah, I showed it after the time savings because that was like 4 times the size beforehand.
If you're really desperate to cut down a regular expression anyway, Regular expressions are a really heavy hammer to use as a DVC parser. The DVC grammar is very, very well defined. And we actually need to like write a DVC linter anyway to look for weird things. So we could potentially get rid of the regular expression usage entirely, but
Oh,
I
I
don't
see.
know. I don't know if it's really in your critical path to get to 1 second. It's one thing. I don't know if it gets you
The
through the
critical
door though.
the critical thing right now is the Python. So
Okay.
Adib, that's
So
one
it's
thing I
2
wanted to
seconds
ask.
on my machine. I just ran it. 2 seconds.
The 2 seconds,
1 point,
2.0?
1.97.
1.97, yeah. Yeah, so to get that under one, you'd have to change Python to either Python or C or C Python. And I'm wondering if is that okay? Like, what are the considerations that went into choosing Python?
So again, this is why it's like this is part of the challenge, right? Is like can you make these trade-offs and like you know uh, like evaluate all the options, make say like okay, this is clearly not worth it. This sounds like it might be worth it. Explore that. That's part of the challenge. Um,
Mhm.
so I mean, a lot of these bounties are up for like we want these things, but they're equal parts we want these things and equal parts hiring challenges. So
Mhm.
that's what I'll say about that.
Oh, okay, that's fair. But no, but like
Uh,
as far as, do you guys care if I get rid of Python and C, yeah, Python and then just use C? Is that allowed? Is that like,
Anything is allowed.
oh,
Just
okay,
make good things. That's the ethos of the whole project, right?
okay.
It's
I just don't
you
know
know
what went into the decision to use Python in the first place. Like, it was just the easiest, like,
doesn't really matter. It's like think about like okay, what am I trading off? Like if I remove Python and I write a C extension, what am I gaining? What am I losing? Is
uh-huh,
it going to make everything a pain in the ass to like work on? You know, so maybe you get some build time back, but then every time you want to change something, it's in net like 2x harder for whatever reason.
right.
Just, that's everybody is having like the same experience developing on this stuff. So there's no like special insight that I have, right? Um, and I mean, I'll say I wasn't here when that was written in Python either. So
Okay.
yeah.
And like, if it was all in Python, could this run on device? Like, is that fine? I don't know what the performance constraints are.
Well, that's used in like Cabana and stuff. So that is, I would say that's like a legitimate thing to explore, but there may be some things that preclude it, like plot juggler or some of the tools.
Okay. Thanks, Adib. Great.
Yeah, cool. So that we got for this chat, I think it's pretty good. We finished less than an hour. 098, end of the month. Who's excited about release, fork data? A lot of exciting stuff in this chat. Fortunately, it's not MLSim, but it all leads to MLSim. So that's the good news.
Cool.
And Yassine was not here to give us MLSim update, but I guess the big update is that we have good evidence that shows as we scale up the data that it just gets better. So that's the big news with MLSim. Cool. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Quick question
Yeah.
for Connect.
Yeah.
I know we won't support Matt or AOL in stock, but I think would it be nice to have to show in Connect where the steering only for some engagements?
Where the
So in Connect,
Steering
at the
only.
bar, it shows only green when you have the both controls engaged. At least that's how we do it. But do we want to use the actual lat active serial for the colors or whatnot?
I think it would be nice.
Yeah, I think right
Yeah,
now doesn't get that information from the backend, but the backend processing the logs at the moment makes like a JSON file with all of the changing from alerts or engaged and disengaged, and it is just looking at like car control active. So I suppose you could extend that, but like that's in private source code. That can't be like a PR or anything at the moment with Connect.
So what I'll say is, so Sunny Pilot should just match whatever stock OpenPilot does from like a logs perspective, and then from like a Connect perspective, that should be like that decision should kind of be made separately. What might be nice with Connect is to like just literally showing engagement in the timeline, and then maybe there's a second timeline for like events, and that include override or something. I don't know. I think that's something to maybe think about for a new Connect when it's time for that. If you want to submit a PR and play around with it, go for it. But
Oh, yeah, it was mainly focusing on Connect because Sunny Pilot for the events for engagement and disengagement it's the same thing as stock. So
Okay,
only
cool.
thing we're listening to is just lat active and long active for the mat stuff specifically. But as far as showing Connect, we only show the green bar when the enabled event is being output. So that's really it. So I'll play with the PR on Connect and
Okay.
see. I just want to see if you guys are okay with it, interested in it. So before I make a PR, so
All right. Okay, I gotta go. I got a nosebleed, but I
cool.
will see you guys next week.
See you
All right,
guys.
thanks.
Nick.